This
The
report
envelope
clearly
looked
shows that
ordinary
you
until he
ignored the
opened
safety
it.
protocols.
Sir, we are doing
Inside was a
everything we
single sheet
can.
of
An
paper
innocent
that
patient
weighed
almost
more than
died
any
because of
burden
this.
he had ever
I
carried.
demand a full
The
investigation
number
right now.
printed in bold at the bottom didn't seem real. $412,000. A medical bill so large it could erase every dream he had ever fought to protect. His hands trembled as his young daughter played with crayons on the living room floor, unaware that one letter had just threatened to steal the only stable home she had ever known. But what happened next wasn't just about money. It became a battle between one determined father and a system that believed no one would ever question it. His courage started with one simple question, and that question shook an entire institution to its foundation. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still matters, if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every small act of support helps us bring more inspiring stories like this to people around the world. Marcus Johnson had never expected life to be easy. As a black single father raising his 8-year-old daughter Ava, every sunrise began with responsibility and every sunset ended with exhaustion. He worked 2 jobs, one driving city buses before dawn and another stocking grocery shelves late into the night. Sleep came in short pieces, but he never complained because every sacrifice meant his daughter had warm meals, clean clothes, and bedtime stories filled with dreams bigger than their tiny apartment. After losing his wife to a sudden illness years earlier, Marcus promised himself that Ava would never feel abandoned by life. He couldn't replace her mother, but he could become the safest place she knew. Their apartment wasn't beautiful by magazine standards, but every corner carried love. Family photographs covered the walls. Handmade birthday cards decorated the refrigerator. A tiny kitchen table held countless homework sessions, laughter, and prayers whispered over inexpensive dinners. Marcus often skipped meals without saying a word so Ava could have seconds. He repaired broken furniture instead of buying new. He turned ordinary weekends into adventures at free parks and libraries because he believed childhood should never depend on the size of a paycheck. Everything changed one rainy evening when Marcus collapsed at work from severe chest pain. His co-workers called an ambulance before he could protest. He kept telling everyone he couldn't afford the ride, but the pain became unbearable. Doctors rushed him through emergency tests fearing a life-threatening heart condition. Hours later, they discovered the cause was not a heart attack but a rare inflammation that required immediate treatment and several days in intensive care. The medication saved his life. The doctors celebrated another successful recovery. Marcus celebrated being able to return home to his daughter. He thought the hardest part was over. Weeks later, the hospital bill arrived. $412,000. Marcus stared at the pages over and over again, convinced there had been a mistake. His yearly income wasn't even a fraction of that amount. The number seemed almost designed to destroy hope itself. Collection notices soon followed. His credit score collapsed. Phone calls began arriving before breakfast and continued until bedtime. Every ring of the phone filled Ava with worry because she could see the fear growing inside her father's eyes. Marcus kept smiling for her, but every night after she fell asleep, he sat alone at the kitchen table wondering how someone could survive an illness only to be buried by the cost of surviving. He contacted the hospital repeatedly. Each conversation ended with another transfer, another department, another explanation that never answered his questions. Payment plans were suggested, but even the smallest monthly amount was impossible. Financial assistance applications disappeared into endless processing. Every person seemed sympathetic, yet nothing changed. Marcus felt invisible, as though the system expected him to surrender simply because the paperwork was too overwhelming. One Saturday morning, while organizing every document related to his hospital stay, Marcus noticed something strange. Several charges appeared multiple times. Medications he never received had been billed repeatedly. Equipment listed on the invoice had never entered his hospital room. Laboratory tests continued appearing days after he had already been discharged. The more he looked, the more confused he became. He wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't an accountant. But he knew basic arithmetic, and none of it made sense. Instead of giving up, Marcus spent evenings at the public library after work. While Ava finished homework beside him, he studied patient billing rights, insurance regulations, and hospital pricing practices. He borrowed books, read government publications, and watched educational videos. Page by page, he slowly transformed confusion into understanding. The process wasn't glamorous. It was painfully slow. But every fact he learned gave him another reason to keep asking questions instead of accepting impossible answers. Finally, Marcus requested a formal meeting with hospital administrators. They expected another desperate patient asking for mercy. Instead, a tired father walked into the room carrying a thick folder filled with highlighted documents, billing records, and handwritten notes. Everyone prepared to explain payment options. Nobody expected what happened next. Marcus calmly placed the bill on the table and asked one question. Could someone please show me where every single one of these charges came from, because according to your own records, many of them could not have happened? Silence filled the room. Administrators flipped through papers. Department managers exchanged uncertain glances. Computer records were opened. One supervisor quietly left to make phone calls. Minutes turned into hours as employees searched for explanations that refused to appear. Marcus simply waited. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't pleading for sympathy. He only wanted the truth. That single question uncovered something much larger than anyone expected. Internal reviews revealed duplicated charges, automated billing errors, incorrect coding, and procedures assigned to patients who had never received them. The mistakes weren't isolated to Marcus's account. Similar problems appeared in hundreds of patient files processed through the same system over several years. What began as one father's search for answers became a hospital-wide investigation involving compliance officers, outside auditors, and healthcare regulators. News of the investigation spread throughout the community. Local journalists began asking why ordinary families had been paying bills they never fully understood. Other patients reviewed their own statements and discovered similar inconsistencies. Elderly couples living on retirement income found duplicate charges. Young parents realized they had been paying for services their children never received. Marcus's quiet persistence inspired countless strangers to ask questions they had once been too intimidated to ask. Months later, the hospital issued a public statement acknowledging widespread billing failures. Marcus's entire balance was erased. Hundreds of additional patient accounts were corrected. Millions of dollars in improper charges were refunded or forgiven. New oversight procedures were introduced, billing software was redesigned, and independent reviews became mandatory before large invoices were sent to patients. The system that once seemed untouchable had been forced to change because one ordinary father refused to believe that impossible numbers should never be questioned. Marcus never considered himself a hero. He returned to driving his morning bus routes and reading bedtime stories to Ava. Their apartment looked exactly the same. The kitchen table still held homework, simple dinners, and family prayers. But something inside him had changed forever. He understood that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes courage is quietly refusing to accept an answer that doesn't make sense. Sometimes changing the world begins with asking one honest question when everyone else expects silence. Years later, Ava wrote an essay at school about the person she admired most. She didn't write about celebrities, athletes, or famous leaders. She wrote about her father. She described a man who worked until his hands ached, who sacrificed comfort without complaint, and who taught her that dignity could never be measured by money. She explained that real strength wasn't about never falling down. It was about standing back up even when the odds seemed impossible. Her teacher later admitted there wasn't a dry eye in the classroom after reading those words. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and share one act of kindness you've witnessed or experienced. Your story might become the hope someone else desperately needs today. Life will always place impossible-looking mountains in front of ordinary people. Some will turn back. Others will climb. But every once in a while, someone asks a question so powerful that the mountain itself begins to crumble. Marcus didn't have wealth, influence, or powerful connections. He had honesty, persistence, and love for his daughter. In the end, those were stronger than fear, stronger than injustice, and stronger than a broken system that counted on silence. As Ava grew older, she never remembered the terrifying number printed on that medical bill. She remembered something far more valuable. She remembered watching her father choose courage over surrender, truth over fear, and hope over despair. That lesson became the greatest inheritance he could ever leave behind, proving that sometimes one voice, one question, and one determined heart can change countless lives forever. And before you go, if Marcus's journey inspired you or reminded you that kindness and courage still exist in this world, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a heartfelt comment below, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Together, we can keep spreading stories that remind the world that compassion, perseverance, and ordinary people still have the power to create extraordinary change.